the three phases of a major incident and why in the global best practice in IT major incident management, we split the major incident process into these three phases. Hello, my name is Adam Norman and I'm the CEO and founder here at MIM, the global professional body for IT major incident management. We own the global best practice training and certification program and are privileged to serve clients across 80 countries. So I want to talk about the three phases of a major incident and why in the global best practice in IT major incident management, we split the major incident process into these three phases. So many of you will be familiar with the primary objective in our training. So the primary objective of major incident management is to restore normal service operation as quickly as possible via workaround or fix. Now, that's not something as an industry that should be a surprise to us. However, in version 3 of our training program, the primary objective of major incident management is to restore normal service operation of business critical services as quickly as possible by a workaround or permanent fix, whilst maintaining stakeholder confidence. Now, that one addition, those few words, sound like they're very, very simple. But what we're actually suggesting here is that maintaining stakeholder confidence is as much a part of your objective as restoring services. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And as I go through the three phases and the sub-objectives of the three phases, it will make a lot more sense as to why. So any of you who are seasoned professionals and have lots of experience of run many major incidents, there'll be certain things you know. So as major incident professionals, you can restore normal service operation as quickly as possible and do an incredible job. You can manage the technical resolving groups very, very well. You can manage your suppliers very well. You can lead them very effectively. You can maximize collaboration and do an absolutely brilliant job. You can resolve a major incident in 30 minutes that may have taken many people longer, an hour to resolve, for example. If you do not manage the stakeholder confidence as well, there are a couple of things that happen. First of all, despite being extremely effective and doing a great job and performing well, you will find that your customers and your stakeholders are not happy. If you did not make them aware of the major incidents and they found out on their own, if you did not manage their expectations and keep them updated and informed about what is happening and when it's happening or likely to occur, you'll find that they're still not satisfied. And that's partly because as humans, we don't particularly on the whole like uncertainty. It makes us feel uncomfortable, it makes some people anxious. And particularly when we're talking about something that could be costing a company millions of pounds in revenue and reputational damage and lost productivity, may cause legal obligations to not be met. People naturally will feel very uncomfortable. So when I say stakeholders, stakeholders can be internal stakeholders, it could be your clients, it could be your customers, the end users. Regardless of your setup, whether you work for a managed service provider or you work in-house directly for the company as a major incident manager. And it's really, really important. So here's a couple of interesting things that happen when you miss out this key part of managing your stakeholder confidence. So let's say, for example, you do a great job, you're immediately on a major incident as you're made aware of it. You engage the technical resolving groups very quickly. They're all doing a stellar job, very diligently, quick to respond, work on this. But you don't let anyone know. Well, what's going to happen? Well, your service desk, if there's lots of end users impacted, it's going to get flooded with end users who are not particularly happy. That might get escalated, so you might have service managers or product owners, depending on how your company's structured, who are hearing from them. If it's something particularly serious, CIOs, the Chief Information Officers, CTOs, Chief Technical Officer, or even the CEO of the company may be made aware, whether it's made aware by a customer, client, or by people internally, or being made aware because they themselves are unable to work. Now, if they are coming to you saying, what's going on, is there a major incident? We've already failed to do that part of our job. And they're going to be questioning how good we are at doing our job. And what happens when that occurs is people start to interfere with the right intentions, but meaning you will start to receive more phone calls of people trying to get updates because they don't feel they are being kept up to date. You will get more phone calls, which actually, ironically, becomes more disruptive, meaning you're able to spend less time focusing on helping the technical resolving groups focus on diagnosis and resolution and solving the challenge, because you are fielding and being reactive to all of this incoming traffic. One of the really interesting scenarios, if you work for a managed service provider, what you will find is, if you have not done a good job right from the start of a major incident, keeping everybody informed and managing their expectations and their confidence levels, is that service delivery managers will often hijack a major incident call. And it might not be a service delivery manager, it may be someone more senior, it may be somebody, maybe your customer, for example. What you'll find is they will come on a major incident bridge call and they will be trying to drive the major incident forward. And by the way, for all of the right reasons. They obviously want the exact same thing that you do. They want the major incident to be resolved, they want everybody to be as effective as possible, and they want to restore normal service operation very quickly. The problem is, because we haven't nailed the stakeholder confidence piece right at the start in this initial 15 minutes, that manifests later in people trying to drive this forward when really that's our responsibility. And had we both instilled confidence right from the start and then maintained that throughout the major incident, had we done that, we wouldn't get this interference from other parties. So major incident managers who have established a really good reputation over a long period of time with their stakeholders and their customers for high performance don't have this issue. Now, it may happen again if you start to manage a new major incident badly, because typically we're only as good as our last major incident, or if there have been a few things recently where one has perhaps dropped the ball slightly and not delivered the standard of performance or service that people are used to. But this is what essentially happens if we don't manage the stakeholder confidence, is we get interference that ironically means that the mean time to resolve for a major incident gets extended. It takes longer for us to resolve this major incident, which means the impact, cost, reputational damage, obligation not met, all these things also have greater impact. So that's one thing to really think about, is the primary objective is not just to restore normal service operations as quickly as possible. It is to maintain stakeholder confidence. Now, a good example of this is somebody holding off on issuing initial major incident communications because they want to get more information. Now, I'm not suggesting that there is never an appropriate scenario if that to happen, but what I am suggesting is certain people, particularly people who are either S or C in our DISC psychometric profiling personality types, steadiness, conscientiousness. So people who are really conscientious, normally analytical, high detail, focus on detail. Those people are very focused on getting all the right information because they're so conscientious in doing this. They will hold off issuing major incident communications, particularly the initial ones, because they feel there's not enough substance. But really our initial communications are just about hitting the alarm bell and saying, we know there is a major incident, we are mobilising the entire operation and we are focused on this. And it's just letting people know before they get that from any other source. So that happens quite a lot. People are doing it for the right reason. Major incident professionals are saying, well, no, we need to give them more, we need to understand more, and these comms don't feel like there's a lot of substance to them. But in that initial period, you don't have to have that. You are just establishing what's going on. You are identifying some facts, and that's not a problem. Don't get me wrong, in further updates, you absolutely need to have more substance. But that's a very good example when somebody does that for the right reasons, but they get a negative outcome, and they get more people who then perhaps are nervous or do not feel that the major incident team has control because initial comms did not go out swiftly and they found out about the major incident from someone else. So now let's talk about the 3 phases of a major incident. So in our global best practice in IT major incident management training and certification program, we split the major incident process into 3 phases, and there's a really good reason we do that. It's because whilst the primary objective, as we've talked about, of major incident management is to restore normal service operation of business critical services as quickly as possible via workaround or permanent fix, whilst maintaining stakeholder confidence, is always there and should always be in our mind. There are actually sub-objectives to these 3 phases of a major incident. So, the 3 phases of a major incident are the initial 15-minute phase, the post 15-minute phase, and the resolution and closure phase. So I will come back to the sub-objectives in a minute, but for those of you who are not familiar with major incident management, and this is new content to you, in the initial 15 minutes phase, essentially we have been made aware of a major incident, we are issuing initial communications, and we're engaging the technical resolving groups and making everybody aware there is a major incident. In the post 15 minutes phase, this is where we're really getting into proper diagnosis and attempting to identify either workarounds or fixes to the major incident to get our end users up and running as quickly as possible. Now, it can be misleading because these 3 phases look very linear, but this post 15-minute phase can take much longer. So you can be talking half an hour, you can be talking hours. In some unfortunate cases, you can absolutely be talking days. So it's not quite as linear as it looks. In the resolution and closure phase, we have implemented our workaround or our fix, and we're validating that end users are able to work and function again as normal. And we're taking care of all the administration that sits around major incident management. So, in the initial 15-minute phase of the major incident process, there are 3 sub-objectives. First of all, validate the major incident, meaning make sure it is a major incident and people are actually impacted. You're about to mobilise the entire operations resources. There is the cost to that. There is also your reputation as a major incident team. Obviously, constantly crying wolf and there not being major incidents definitely lessens over time the impact of your communications and how people respond to the major incident team. Now, what I would say with a caveat with this one is different companies and operations take a slightly different approach to this, and that is absolutely fine. We are a framework and we are there to be tailored to your operation and business needs, not to dictate how everybody should do things, purely to give this framework, and obviously people should take the best parts from that and have context around their situation and what their customers and end users need. Now, some companies decide because of speed they will not validate major incidents. They will just immediately issue communications. There is a major incident and then they will downgrade that at a later stage. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we believe that if you have a relatively mature, well-structured major incident team that leverages the tools and technology well, that initial 15 minutes is a perfect amount of time to be able to validate a major incident, as well as issue communications, engage technical resolving groups. Which brings me on to the other two sub-objectives. Number one, validate the major incident. Number two, make stakeholders aware of the major incident. So this is issuing your initial communications, letting people know that you are aware there is a major incident and that you are engaging the operation. Number three, engage all relevant technical resolving groups. So as I mentioned before, it's important to think about these things, because if we think about those sub-objectives, they're not in contrast to the primary objective, they actually support it. However, if you purely looked at restoring normal service operation as quickly as possible, you'd say, let's not do any of the things that take additional time away from us just fixing this major incident. So it takes time to communicate with your stakeholders and let them know there's been a major incident. It takes time to validate a major incident. And so really, I think there are people who just look at that primary objective, and perhaps we get some behaviours which are not positive or contributing to the overall outcome that we actually desire, which is also happy stakeholders and customers. So in the post 15-minute phase, there are two sub-objectives: to identify and implement workarounds or permanent fixes, and to maintain stakeholder confidence. So let's say we get the major incident off to a great start, initial 15 minutes. We've issued our communications, we've engaged technical resolving groups, we've provided useful updates to people. If a major incident goes on for a long period of time, and what we start to do is issue quite generic comms that don't really show any progress in a major incident, you'll get right back into that issue of stakeholder confidence being damaged, and because of that, you will start to see them exhibit behaviours which are not conducive to resolving a major incident as quickly as possible. Things like service delivery managers then coming on to major incident bridge calls, demanding updates when everyone else on the call already knows what's going on, or trying to take over control and drive things forward, which can be quite disruptive. You can't have multiple people trying to lead major incidents, particularly in different directions. And you'll have additional inbound calls coming into the major incident team that they then have to field. So it's really important that in this post 15 minutes phase, that one of those two sub-objectives, the maintaining stakeholder confidence, is constantly on your mind, and you're constantly thinking, are we showing progress? Am I keeping the right people updated? Are they confident that we still have control of this major incident? And finally, the third phase, resolution and closure, has two sub-objectives also: to restore and confirm normal service operation, and to take care of any administration. Now, it sounds very simple, but lots of people actually completely skip the step of confirming normal service restoration. It doesn't have to take long at all, but they look at the underlying technology and they say, yep, it appears to be up, our monitoring systems are showing everything's functioning properly, it looks, but they haven't confirmed with end users that they are able to now work or do whatever it is they were prevented from doing before. Really simple step, but often people can be caught out by that. It's a very simple thing to do, but very important. The administration side of things, I think again, it's very easy for people to, in the fast pace, miss off basic administration that actually is quite fundamental to the operation's continued improvement. So if you think about the handoff, for example, between major incident management to problem management. Without accurate records, without the ITSM ticket being fully updated, it's very difficult for someone else to understand what's happened, why it's happened, and you end up creating a scenario where you don't have a true picture of what has happened, why it happened, how it happened. And so making sure that all of the administration is done is vital so that other parts of the operation can also be as effective as possible. It's also going to be far more useful when doing a post-major incident review if everything has been done. Have all of the technical resolving group members provided updates in the ITSM tool of all of the actions that they undertook. Have you updated and put in all of the actions that the major incident team took? And that's your responsibility to make sure that everybody has done that, so that when people come back to that major incident, they're able to understand what's happened and why. It also makes problem management's life much easier, as I mentioned, particularly if they're not able to get much one-on-one time with you to understand what's happened. And it just saves us repeating work later on. So we have covered the primary objective of major incident management. We've covered the 3 phases of the major incident process and their sub-objectives. Really important to understand which phase of a major incident you're in and which of those sub-objectives you're trying to achieve, which ultimately is going to lead to the successful completion of the primary objective. Really important to understand which phase you're in. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more videos from us daily. You can also hit the notification bell to be notified every time we release a new video or content. If you'd like to learn more about MIM and our training and certification programs, our events, how you can be involved with the community, visit www.majorincidentmanagement.com.